We start our life as a religious person. Most of the families, most of the 8 billion people start their life as a religious family. And there are many who don't believe in God or they don't believe in the existence of God. So either they are atheists or agnostics, or they just have idiosyncrasy that I just don't believe in all this, even if my parents believe in it. Now, what is a religion? To understand spirituality, we must first understand what is religion to make this satsang comprehensive and go to what does being spiritual mean and what does being religious mean. And what happens is because, as I said, we are introduced to a religion not because of my volition, but because of my circumstances. So I begin to practice that religion because I have faith in my parents and I have faith in things that my parents do when I'm younger. And I think that whatever my parents tell me is the only truth. And obviously, being religious is a very big truth and good truth. There's no doubt about it. And I'm trying to explain and clarify things so that there is less confusion or obfuscation about what we are talking about. So, having said that, I begin my life as a religious person, except for unusual circumstances where things happen to me at a very early age. Like in case of Sri Ramana Maharshi, he was 16 and he had a cosmic experience, an experience that could not have been given to him by any religious activity, dogma, or ritualistic practice. It was an experience. And that experience was about that death has just come to him. Not that he's going to die, but the death has just, he's here. I'm going to be gone. I'm over. It's done with. That kind of fear kind of engulfed him, grasped him, clasped him. What happened? There was a spiritual experience in his life at the age of 16. Some of us, or many people in the world, may have had an experience when they were much younger, even, but it could have lasted a few seconds or a few minutes, and a fleeting experience goes away. In case of Ramana Maharshi, it was an experience at the age of 16 years and roughly about 6, 7 months, and never left him. It was permanent. It was absolutely, infallibly permeating his entire life without any break whatsoever. So that was a spiritual experience. What is exactly Bandhu trying to say? I'm trying to say that religion is different from spirituality in what way? In the way that I'm given religion because of the faith my parents have. Number one, that's how my religion started. Unless my parents are very spiritual. So, unless parents were spiritual, our life journey begins as a religious person. Religion is based on activities. I must do certain things to become part of that religion. So, religion is good, but religion does not give me the experience that I hear about even in religious sermons or satsangs, or in religious texts I read about I am that I am, or Aham Brahmasmi, or Tattvamasi, or so I do hear it and I can begin to read it and I think I absorb it. But unless I have the experience of that, something like that, I don't, my vista, my gates don't open up to receive the cosmic message. So far we have talked that it's based on some kind of ritualistic activity. Rituals make me religious. And since it is a particular group of people or particular practice that only certain population of the world engages in, every organization, every institution, every entity, every samaj, every enterprise has a structure. And the structure continues to fulfill and feed my ego. So religion is very good for us to have the basic clarity about what is it that I call God, or what is it that I am pursuing in my life. And it gives me a way to begin to conduct my life in a nicer, noble way. So it does give me a good conduct. How do I really engage with the society? Religion is very good to that. There's no doubt about it. It makes me purer, and religion is good to practice. Now, since we said that that spirituality can only be experienced, that experience is the one that would ultimately mature me, make me mature to go to that ultimate axioms or the Mahavakyas that the religion talks about but cannot give me the experience of. So when I become spiritual by grace, and we become spiritual mostly by grace, because we all have very good activities from the past lives, just as we have very bad activities from the past lives, which becomes part of this life. So when I'm spiritual, I experience it. I begin to feel a connection with something that I cannot even describe in my own words of my own personal experience. And obviously, my religion does talk about it, but nobody can give it to me. For example, none of us are self-realized, right? We have to experience it. Some of us may get self-realized, like many saints have become or did become self-realized. Some of us could be. We could be at that stage. We don't know yet. So spirituality is an experience, and spirituality makes me larger than my own controlled definition of my own self. My personal life, my religious life, my professional life, it does not let me stay limited when I begin to experience spirituality, because I say, I have an experience that was beyond this world that I engage in. It was outside the norm, or outside the boundary of what I think should be the functionality of something that I experience. A spiritual experience is something I can't describe properly. I can describe a dream and say this was a spiritual dream, but the feeling I get when I get the experience is mostly indescribable to the 100% extent of what I experience. I can still tell people that this is an experience I had. Yes, I can describe it. I will still not be able to convey the feeling I had at that time with the person to whom I'm sharing with. Are we getting the point? But the other person will not experience what you experience. It's a very personal cosmic experience that has been bestowed onto you because of the blessings you had. How does that happen? That happens when I become purer in my activities. My social activities, my mundane activities become larger than only for myself. What does that mean? I begin to become more selfless and less selfish. When I'm less selfish and I'm expanding myself, such as providing food to people, providing clothing to people, doing something for them, going out of my way to do something for them, all those larger activities, which are nobler activities, which are not geared towards my benefit or to benefit my body or my life, but rather I'm doing it for somebody without any expectation in return by that person or that institution for me to benefit from. That is a sublime, noble action. When those actions increase, then I begin to experience spirituality. So, like the head of the Ramakrishna mission, Swami Ranganathananda, one time said that when you open your eyes, and if your first thought is not, to whom can I help, you have not really truly become spiritual. Did you get that? When you open your eyes and your first thought is not to help somebody, then you're not truly spiritual. So our life, when it is conducted into the service of others, then my expanse of experiencing spiritual existence begins. And it takes me leaps and bounds forward, because now the cosmic energy is walking with me. Cosmic energy is waiting to identify human beings who are wanting to or are inclined to connect with the cosmic energy. We were supposed to be the emissaries of the God. That's why we were given the human form, with an intellect, with a mind to reason, not to proliferate myself, not to make profits for myself, but to profit the entire cosmic existence around me, humans, animals, plants, fauna, whatever that exists around me, I should become part of that. Now, let me give you an example of how to connect with this kind of thinking. Today, we live in modern houses with electronic gadgets and with planes, and we can go from one place to the other in the shortest possible time. And that would continue to multiply and diminish everything. Today, we go from one country to the other in a few hours, and maybe at some point we'll make it in 2 minutes or 2 days, or like we see the UFOs traveling at a speed human beings can't imagine, or taking a turn at that high speed at 90 degrees. That's the experience. So how do I begin to understand this kind of thinking about becoming part of the cosmic existence around me? So let's go back to my grandfather's time, or great-grandfather's time, or great-grandfather's 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 great-grandfather, and go back 500, 700,000 years. We didn't live in houses like this. We didn't have cars. We didn't, 2,000 years back, we didn't have ships. So we didn't have at one point a wheel, and we still existed, but we existed with the existence of the cosmic other habitants around me, whether they were animals or trees or plants or water, and we worshipped it. Our first worships as religious people was elements. We worship fire, or we worship water, or we at least prayed to it. So my existence was not this selfish. I didn't have so many of my own creations to call myself rich or poor, or successful or unsuccessful. We all cultivated the land. We worked with the cows and the bulls and the dogs and the pigeons and every existence around me. I slept under a tree, or where, you know what I'm saying. I hope you get the point that I was less clamored by the mental creation. All these creations around us are product of our own mind. Anything that we use today. So that is the way to connect to my previous living experiences in this particular world that I have walked away from. Slowly and slowly and slowly, I've gone away. Why do saints don't have any possessions? Why didn't Ramakrishna Paramahansa or Lao Tse or Saint Francis of Assisi or Jesus or Ma Anandamayi Ma or whichever, I mean, so many saints have walked on this planet. Were they really holding things and having? No, that's a spiritual person normally doesn't have too many encumbrances, too many things around. They are sans wealth, sans clothing. They are dressed in very ordinary clothes. They live in a very ordinary way of life, because they have gone beyond the definition of the human creation. So this is the biggest difference between being religious versus spiritual. Once I'm spiritual, I can still go to my religious activity. Doesn't change anything. Yet I'm able to see other religious associations just as mine, just as me. spirituality opens up my gates to embrace anybody and everybody, because my faith is in the ultimate reality. My faith now is in ultimate existence. My faith is now in what I call heaven or moksha or nirvana or self or consciousness or awareness, whatever terms. I believe in that now. And therefore, I cannot just believe in a limited definition of being a Hindu or being this or that. That's why spirituality is something I should be going towards. And I will eventually go towards that because of my previous experience. It will happen. But these are the ways to begin to think of when we talk about a satsang. These are the thoughts that create and help me propel forward into that path of spirituality. I have a quote here by Ramana Maharshi that I want to read, take a pause here. And he's talking about who is making spiritual progress. And we have not got to that stage in our satsang today, but at least let me read it. It'll open up some other thoughts. He says the degree of freedom from unwanted thoughts and the degree of concentration on a single thought are the measure to gauge spiritual progress. Somebody had asked him, Bhagavan, how do I know that I'm progressing spiritually? And this is the answer he gave: the degree of freedom from unwanted thoughts and the degree of concentration on a single thought are the measures to gauge spiritual progress. And this is taking us to the next step, that once I'm connecting with my divinity, the cosmic experiences that we talked about just now, then my ideal state of mind would be when I don't think of anything else but that alone. And we are not there yet, but that opens up our thought process. It opens up a way to learn, how could I be more spiritual? Then there is another one here. When your real, effortless, joyful, grateful nature is realized, when your real, effortless, joyful, grateful nature is realized, it will not be inconsistent with the ordinary activities of life. Bhagavan here is saying, when your real nature is realized. And this is a very, very subtle message that these teachings, religious teachings, or saints who are spiritual give us. They don't spoon feed you. They don't say this is how you can be realized. But these are the subtle. He's saying when your real nature is understood. So there are two ways of understanding it. My real nature is I am the cosmic energy. Brahmasmi. Aham Tattvamasi. I am that I am. Right? I am that I believe. I have the faith that I am, yet I don't experience it. Why? Because I'm limited. But here he's saying when you realize your own nature, you could realize your own limited nature. And then even when you do that, even when you begin to open up your gates and go beyond yourself, it will not be inconsistent. So it will be consistent. It will not be inconsistent with the ordinary activities of life. Absorb this, my friends. You will still continue to go to your school if you're a teacher, or if you are a CEO of your company, you'll still have to go and work. Or if you're an employee who's just got a new job, or you are married, you have to look after your children. Like Kabir was always a family man, right? And many, and Vivekananda used to tell people, very, very often he used to say, the householder who functions as a householder and still remembers me, meaning God, all the time, and looks at God, is a bigger, better sannyasi or sadhaka than the one who's sitting in the Himalayas or in the forests meditating. So that's why I took these two quotes from Bhagavan just to open up our thinking vista, that this is how my spirituality can be measured by me. I think less of other things. My japa, my mantra becomes a japa. If I have a mantra, then I say it so many times. Even while working, I do it. Even while driving, even while having an unpleasant moment, a tape goes at the back of my mind at that particular moment or later on, depending upon our own spiritual maturity, we will still be able to connect with that right away. So these are the basic ways of knowing the difference between religion and spiritual life. Now, one more thing I want to add here, that when we begin to become spiritual, or vice versa, what came first is always the perplexity of this kind of thinking. Was it the tree or the seed, right? Was it the, you know, the examples of how to create what came first? We don't know, right? Similarly, we don't know what will come first. Whether our opening up as a spiritual person would create our ability to be of helping others, serving others. Helping just doesn't mean donating or buying food. Serving others. Even if you see, and I don't have to create any examples because all of you have enough experience yourselves to be able to connect with these kinds of thinking. Helping anybody without any personal agenda. No selfish agenda gives me that selfless action. And when I conduct in a fashion, in a manner of a selfless action, then I am getting closer to that spiritual entity, that spiritual presence that pervades my life, but I have obscured it. So this is a basic way of understanding. And when I do that, when I serve others, a seed of compassion begins to grow and sprout as a plant in my heart. Then I begin to see that my life alone is not important because I was not created as a single entity to lead my life all by myself. I was created to remain the emissary of that cosmic energy that has created everything around me, that feeds me all the time. I get the shade of the tree when the hot sun is hot, but I didn't create the tree. This is the way to look at it, that I'm using water, which I did not create, and I waste water in my house. I have not been able to create anything. I could not have called it a day if the sun did not rise. And I do not have any control over air or water, fire, or earth on which I live, and all the other species that live on this planet. And this planet is only 0.01% in size of the cosmic existence. The entire cosmic existence, of which only 0.4% or something. I have some figures here that one time in a presentation with Deepak Chopra was made somewhere in the world, I don't remember where, and they were talking about the cosmic expanse, and they gave some startling numbers. I have it somewhere in my book, but 96.7% of what we think is cosmic energy is unknown. Only 3 or 4% of what we know is colossal, of which we are a 0.01%. So even our whole planet is like a dot. So what am I? And that is a spiritual way of looking at things around me. So I hope this made some sense. I hope this laid the foundation for spirituality.